Hey guys, this is Miss Holland. This is our photosynthesis part 2. Alright, so photosynthesis part 1, we talked a lot about light. Now let's actually talk about where that light's going to go. So, one more time, we need to actually know our chloroplast like the back of our hands. So here he is. Remember, your single discs are known as your thylakoid. The empty spots are known as your stroma. And then, of course, your stacks of thylakoids over here on the side is known as your grana. Now, with photosynthesis, we actually have two parts that we're going to talk about, the light reaction and the dark reaction. So, thylakoids here are going to be attracting sunlight. So, hence, this is part of the light reaction. Also, thylakoids attract water. So, here's our H2O. So water and sunlight is part of the light reaction. They're going to pump out into the stroma area some ATP and then NADPH. Now, this in turn is now known as the dark reaction because we don't need sunlight anymore. What we're going to do in this case is that we're going to bring in some CO2 from the outside, and we're going to go through a process that's known as the Calvin cycle. So, one more time. The light reaction literally includes sunlight and water. This will happen in our thylakoid, and we're going to pump out two forms of energy, ATP and NADPH. Our dark reaction is going to happen inside the stroma, and that's where we're going to take our CO2 and we're going to go through this little cycle that's known as the Calvin cycle, and this is where we're going to pump out our sugar, which is our glucose. Okay, so this is our final product here. Now the light reaction in turn also has a final product other than the energy. He also will be pumping out a form, a byproduct, which is known as oxygen. So if I were to split these two apart and give you a column here it is. Light reactions, these are where we're going to be talking about these things called photosystems, take place inside the thylakoids, or in It takes a long time to get to Australia, the chlorophyll A. And so along the way, they need to get recharged. And so here, this is actually known as Photosystem 1. And just like in Finding Nemo, the turtles go on the EAC. This is actually known as the ETC. Not the East Australian Current, but the electron transport chain. So here they are, electrons got broken apart by the water, they get ripped apart, go on the ETC all the way to Australia, or chlorophyll A, where they're going to get pumped up again. So we're going to take these electrons and pump them up again before they can actually go on their journey. And of course, once you actually get pumped up again, I'm able to create this molecule that's known as NADPH. Literally, NADPH is an electron carrier. So imagine this is just like this little basket that's holding all of our little sea turtles inside of it. That's my little sea turtle. Okay. Now, what's going to happen to these hydrogens? These hydrogens start to blow up because we need more and more water, because you need to water your plants. That water keeps getting ripped apart into its hydrogen, keeps getting ripped apart into its oxygen over here. And eventually, these hydrogens start to blow up. And so this is diffusion. So from a high concentration to a low concentration over here, they're going to go out of this protein here that is known as an ATP synthase. Now, as you guys all remember, anything that ends in ASE is known as an enzyme. And so this enzyme, which is a type of protein, ships out the hydrogen ions. And on the outside here, lo and behold, is ADP and a phosphate hanging out. And so what happens is that when they get shipped out, it allows enough energy for that ADP to connect back together and form this molecule called ATP. Okay, so this is exactly what just happened. Our light reaction, which includes our little sun here, threw in some photons to photosystem 2 and photosystem 1. Those photons generated enough energy to break the water apart into these little electrons, which traveled along the ETC and then got pumped out into what's known as an electron carrier. While the water got broken apart, oxygen became a byproduct. That is, again, good for us. The hydrogens got pumped in, and they were forming what's known as ATP. Now, here on the outside as well, you get your CO2, and this is part of your dark reaction. The dark reaction is going to take the CO2 with our ATP. We're going to go through this process that's known as the Calvin cycle. The Calvin cycle, in turn, is going to pump out of